All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar where we get to hear from current participants in our Teach in Spain programs. Now that we know, everyone's here, the sound is working. This webinar is designed to, give you the opportunity to hear those firsthand experiences from our current participants in our Teach in Spain programs. Today, I'm going to share with you some information about, what CIEE is and our Teach Abroad programs. Then we're going to meet some of our CIEE participants that are currently working in the region of Madrid as language and culture assistants. Our current participants are going to share their experiences by answering some questions on different topics. You can feel free to ask, any questions related to the topic being discussed, and I'll share them aloud. If your question is of a different topic, I will save it to the end, but we'll definitely try to answer that, during the question and answer time. There is the same way that you, let me know that you were able to hear me. You can go ahead and input questions into that questions box, and we'll go from there as far as answering those questions for you. So first, I'd like to take a minute to explain, who I am and what CIEE is. CIEE is a nonprofit, non-governmental organization and one of the oldest and most prominent cultural and educational exchange organizations worldwide. We have 70 years of experience in a wide variety of programs in the U.S. and around the world, and we've helped thousands of people gain the skills that they need to live and work in an interdependent and culturally diverse world. We pride ourselves on offering programs that are comprehensive, relevant, and of the highest quality. Our programs include Teach Abroad, Study Abroad, High School Abroad, and Gap Year Exchanges, Work Exchanges, Camp Exchanges, and just so many more. Here you can see the Teach Abroad team. We work here in Portland, Maine, and all of us have taught and lived abroad before, and we're here to be your problem solvers, advisors, and guides for your Teach Abroad experience. My name is Samantha. You can see my picture right there in the middle, and I am the U.S.-based program coordinator for our Teach in Spain programs. A little bit about myself is that in university, I studied for an academic year in Granada, Spain during my junior year of college. After I graduated, I did a little bit of backpacking through Peru and Ecuador. I actually received my TEFL certification while I was in Peru. About a year after that, I moved to South Korea, where I taught English for 2 years with my husband. And then I'm originally from Minnesota, but then we moved to Portland, Maine, where I've been working on the Teach Abroad team here since June 2017. So just about a year coming up here. Here you can see a list of our programs for the academic year ones in Spain. All 4 of our programs are offered in the region of Madrid. That's going to include, the Teach in Spain, the Teach in Spain Basics, and then the 2- and 4-week immersion programs. However, for our Teach in Spain and Teach in Spain Basics, we also offer those in the region of Andalusia. All of you that are listening in today have been accepted into the program and should be aware of those options that you've been given. There's a task in your application for the participants in the Teach in Spain and Teach in Spain Basics program where you can indicate those preferences for placement. For all of our participants in the regular Teach in Spain Basics, and the language immersion programs, you will have the same teaching position. You will work as a language and culture assistant in the regions of Madrid or Andalusia at primary and secondary level public schools. Participants will work 12 hours a week in Andalusia with a monthly stipend of €700 and 16 hours a week with a €1,000 a month stipend in Madrid. In all of these programs, you will be responsible for your own long-term housing after orientation, which can be anywhere from 2 to 4 days, just depending on which program you've applied for. Placements in the region of Madrid are a mix of city center and surrounding neighborhoods. If you're in the area of Madrid, no matter what, you're going to be within that region. A quick Google search will do really great as far as kind of outlining where Madrid is as far as, how far it goes out. I would say about, a third of our placements are going to be right in the city center. The other 2/3 are going to be a little bit farther. They can go up to 90 minutes, up to a 90-minute commute from the city center. And that's usually going to be if you're deciding to live in the city center and then just commuting to work. You can always choose to live wherever you would like. Andalusia is, it's a very large region, and so the placements are going to be, all over as well. They are going to be mostly smaller towns. However, there will be a handful of placements in the bigger cities, like Granada, Cordoba, Sevilla, places like that. But I would definitely just keep those expectations that you will most likely be in a smaller town. For both programs, we do place our participants based on, the date of their commitment deposit. And so the earlier you've committed to the program, the more likely you are to receive the placement preferences that you indicated, whether it be applying with a friend, a specific location within that region, or, primary school versus secondary school. In both of the positions as well, you're going to work 4 days a week, so most participants are going to have a Monday or a Friday off. I would say there's probably that one person that does get stuck with a Wednesday, but usually your school is going to be pretty flexible that you can go ahead and work with them on that. I want to talk a little bit about, your role as a teacher and what it's going to be like. So we work with the educational governments of Madrid and Andalusia and their North American Language and Culture Assistant Program to place teachers in primary and secondary public schools. While the duties for each of the language and culture assistants is going to vary depending on the school and their supporting teacher, I would say most participants and teachers, they're going to make cultural presentations, create activities related to the lesson, maybe work with small groups of students to improve their conversational skills. And another big one that I've heard from participants is that they help them study for their English language exams. If a participant is placed in a bilingual school, which I would say many are, they may also have the opportunities to help teach other subjects in English, such as history, science, art, or physical education. Participants should never be left alone with an entire class, nor are they responsible for grading, discipline, or independent supervision of students. All right, so today we originally had 3 participants. Unfortunately, one of our participants had a veterinary emergency with her pet, and so she's working on that right now. She may be able to join us later on. If she is, that's great. We'll get to be able to hopefully hear from Wendy later. But other than that, let's hear from our other participants in just one quick moment here. The first participant that is joining us today is Elena. Elena, your mic is currently muted, so you can't hear you quite yet, but I will going to go ahead here and unmute your mic, and I'm just going to give you a minute or two to just give us a brief introduction of yourself, and then we'll move forward with the other participant, and then we'll answer some questions.
So hi, I hope everybody's doing well. I remember doing the exact same thing a year ago exactly, so this is fun. So my name is Elena. I decided to teach in Madrid because I had studied abroad there for a year and really loved it, and I ultimately would like to work with refugees and migrants, but after the 2016 presidential election, it was obvious that I wasn't going to be able to get a job in that field, and I didn't really know what to do. I didn't want to go right into grad school, and I wanted some time back in Madrid, and I also enjoy teaching. But to be honest, I love my job here a lot more than I thought I would. I've already signed the contracts to do another year. It has definitely exceeded my expectations. I teach at a middle and high school, kind of halfway between the city center and the suburbs, but the commute's not too bad, maybe 40 minutes, which gives me some good time to read and review my lessons. I really, really love my job, and congratulations to you guys for looking into this program, and I really hope you do it and find the right program for you, because I'm having a blast and I think everyone deserves to have this experience.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you, Elena. Thank you. Do you remember when, as far as your placement goes, were your preferences matched relatively well? I mean, you said you're about a 40-minute commute. When you first got that placement, were you a little disappointed, or how did you feel with that?
Oh, I was thrilled because for me, my priority was getting middle and high school,
okay,
more so than getting a good location. But coming from Orlando, where everything is a 30-minute drive, and New York, where everything is an hour on the subway, this is a really easy commute. And like I said, it gives me time to read. The transportation system here is really good and really reliable. And it's still in the city center. Like I take the metro. I don't have to take any type of commuter rail. It's just, it's not quite in the center where I live. But I don't mind that at all.
Okay, awesome. Oh, that's so great. Well, I'm so glad that you're here. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to mute your mic temporarily here while we have Nicole introduce herself as well, and then we'll kind of jump back in with both of you to be able to share more on the topics, okay?
Okay, great.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, so also joining us today, we have Nicole. Nicole, I'm going to unmute your mic here now. So Nicole, can you hear us okay?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can. Yeah, Nicole, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, hi guys. Thanks for joining us today. I also did one of these webinars about a year ago as well, so I remember exactly all the thoughts I was thinking and what I was getting myself into. But I decided to come over here to Madrid because I spent a semester studying abroad in Sevilla, Spain, my junior year of college, and loved Spain. I graduated in 2016 and worked for a year in Chicago at a public relations agency, and found out that's really not what I wanted to do. And after studying abroad, I knew I wanted to live abroad for a little bit. And I went through CIEE through study abroad, so I knew that they had a teach abroad program. And the more I told people, the more I heard, oh, a friend of a friend, my cousin's sister, everyone kind of knew someone who did something like this and absolutely loved it. So there was a lot of great resources in that. And I am also loving this experience. It's definitely kind of that year I needed to figure out what I wanted to do, and I'm still figuring it out. But I'm looking into going to speech pathology. And I think this experience has definitely helped me realize that, and just the combination of like language and teaching in small groups. So yeah, it's I cannot talk highly enough about this program through everything. So I live in the study center. I teach at a secondary school, so roughly the ages of like the equivalent of 7th grade to seniors in high school, and that matched perfectly with what I preferenced. And my commute's about 50 minutes, which again isn't too bad. I listen to podcasts, I read, listen to music. And I hop right on the metro and take it all the way.
Okay, so then you're linked to the metro as well then, as far as where your school placement and where you live?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, perfect. And so then with your preferences, was it the school age that you had mentioned was the kind of the biggest reason as well, or biggest preference versus location, or how did that work out for you?
Yeah, so I remember being connected with a girl last year. I asked CIEE if I could talk to someone one-on-one who was living here and kind of get her teaching preferences. But she was working in the South, and I had never been to Madrid before, so I was kind of open to wherever my placement was. So I got my placement, had no idea where it was, but absolutely love it. So I think it's just going in with that open mind.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So thank you so much for joining us as well. I appreciate it so much that you and Elena are here today to help us. I'm going to mute your mic real quick. I'm going to do kind of a brief intro for Wendy, just in case she does join us later. But I am going to mute you back up real quick, okay?
Okay, perfect.
Okay, thanks. One moment. All right, and so we did have a third participant that may or may not be able to join us later today, so I just want to do a quick intro for Wendy. Wendy is one of our participants that was in our Teach in Spain, our main Teach in Spain program, and also a TEFL participant. She was born in the Dominican Republic and lived in Miami, and then, I think she, had some other full-time commitments and jobs that she worked throughout, and then eventually, found her way here to Spain. She's been really loving it. I know she's renewing another year as well in Spain, so it's gone really well for her. So just in case she does join us later, this is Wendy. Some of the topics we're going to discuss today is going to be finding housing. What was that like? What were the apartments like? How long did it take? Anything like that. We're also going to talk about teaching at your host school, a little bit about banking, vacation and sick days, and then also some private tutoring information as well. So right now, for the first one, we have finding housing. I'm going to go ahead and unmute both of you. We'll see how that works. I'm going to unmute you, Elena, and Nicole. Let me find your mics here. So you both are unmuted right now, just so you know. Nicole, do you want to start off by giving us a little information about housing? So you were in the main Teach in Spain program. When did you arrive to Spain?
Yeah, so I arrived end of August. I think it was August 28th, 29th. So I had about a month before school started.
Okay. And so how was it? I mean, did you do any research before you came to Spain? Did you kind of start fresh when you got there?
Yeah, so I actually felt kind of a lot of pressure just because I saw on a lot of the Facebook pages and the Ox pages that people were posting houses and stuff. But I had heard from a lot of people that you definitely want to see it in person, and I couldn't agree with that more. So I would just wait till you get here. I think my biggest piece of advice is don't freak out. Everyone says it's very competitive, and it is, but everyone's found housing that I've heard of. So I found my apartment, I think, within 6 days of orientation.
Oh, wow.
So I still had a few days at the hotel.
Cool. That is amazing. That was, would you say that is a relatively quick compared to others that you're aware of?
I would say it's around average. It's very competitive. I know people were looking at different websites. I know there's one Idealista that people, but I know it was hard getting in contact since everyone's like searching and emailing landlords. So another piece of advice is if you meet someone who's found an apartment, ask if they can ask their landlord if they have other properties, or asking people that have been here. Like my apartment that I found, girls had lived in here last year. So in the 2016 to 2017, there were English assistants living here. So that's kind of how we found it.
And then did you find an apartment with friends individually? Were there other roommates? How was that for you?
Yeah, so me and this other girl that I met through CIEE were looking together. And it just so happened that so I live with 4 other Americans. And so there's 2 other CIEE people as well. And then one person who went directly through the community. So I kind of found one person and we teamed up, and then there were more rooms open. So girls at like breakfast one morning overheard that there were 2 more rooms available, and they just introduced themselves and hopped on.
Okay, cool. And then is it a furnished apartment, right? And you have your own private room, and then you share kind of the communal areas?
Correct, yes. So definitely have my own room. It does not have a window. So again, that's something you just have to be flexible with. But we have a big common space area.
Awesome. And then how about a lease? Because I know most leases, were you able to sign like a 10-month lease, or was it a year lease? And then when your time comes up, you're going to have to find someone to take over?
Yeah, I would say the most I heard of is 1-year contracts. So my contract is a year, but there was, my apartment wasn't listed on the website. A girl had put down kind of the deposit in July. So I have it through July. Okay.
And then do you think you'll end up staying through the July, or will you try to find someone to take it over?
Oh, no, I'll definitely stay through July since our contract ends like June 30th, end of June. So just having that month to kind of stay and travel and do stuff like that.
Awesome. Thank you. Elena, how was your house hunting experience, especially because you were in the basics program, so you arrived late September?
Yeah, so I'm not gonna lie, finding housing here can be a challenge. You will find something, and it's not impossible, but it can be stressful, as Nicole said. I tried to research in advance and get something in advance, but not only do you want to see the property before you make any type of agreement, the landlord generally wants to meet you. Most people I reached out to told me that they were interested, but they just would rather meet the person in person before signing any agreements. I think one thing that's important to know about Madrid is in contrast to American cities where you sign a lease on an apartment, you can do that here, but in general, families will usually rent a lease in an apartment, maybe a group of friends, but in general, they rent by room, not by apartment. So I've lived in 2 apartments here, one right now and one when I was studying here, and both of them I made the agreement through the landlord and met the other roommates, to make sure that we got along, but I didn't have to find a group of people to live with, and we're not all on a lease together. The landlord has individual contracts with each of us. Here I'm month to month. My last apartment, I think I signed a 6-month contract. That's generally 6 months is generally the I would say the average. And my best recommendation would be when you are coming to Spain, instead of trying to find an apartment before you get here, do some research on the neighborhoods definitely and think about what you want. But I would actually look for a cheap but safe and reliable Airbnb, because I stayed with a friend for about a week when I got here. Then I kind of felt like, I was putting them out. So I got an Airbnb. I think it was like 7 or 9 euros a night somewhere in a suburb. But, it was affordable and I didn't have to stress while I was looking for housing, and I could kind of take my time. August and September are typically the most competitive months to find housing. So, I mean, it's not the norm, but I do know a few auxiliaries who just booked a cheap Airbnb through the end and then started actually looking in October, and they typically ended up with nicer apartments for lower rent, because it's just a less competitive time to look. But you can always find a place too that's month to month and just live there for a few months, and then see if you're satisfied and if you want to move, or sign a 3-month contract. But it is stressful, but it is doable, and you just kind of have to not panic and have faith that something will come through, because it will come through. Something that you like and that you're happy with, that's in your price range, will come through. It just takes some patience. And almost everybody uses Idealista, the website that Nicole mentioned. So if you want to start looking just to see what price ranges are like and where you wanna be, I would recommend looking on it now. But again, I wouldn't start messaging landlords, just because they're probably going to tell you thanks but no thanks. Contact me in September when you get here, and I'll let you know if the room is still available so we can meet in person.
And how long, because I know you had mentioned that it is stressful, and we try to express that too, that it can take a while. How long would you say then that it took you to find the place that you're in, or that you initially rented?
I got pretty lucky. It took me about 10 days.
Okay.
Between 10 days and 2 weeks. And I didn't think that was bad, because, I knew it would take some time. So I spent 1 week with a friend and then 1 week at an Airbnb.
Okay.
I know people that found it in 3 days. I know people that found it in 3 weeks. It really just depends. Also on how picky you are, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. We try to recommend that it could take a dedicated 2 to 3 weeks. I think that's just to hopefully set expectations so that people aren't panicking after that first week or something. And I think the recommendation that you had given to Elena is to have that temporary housing set up is super, super smart as well. I didn't realize how cheap it was, which is really great to hear.
Yeah, I mean, I would, if you book in advance, and especially if you're going to stay, if you get something in the suburbs, which is good because you're going to spend all your time in the city center, orientation, going to the museums, parks, exploring the city, looking at apartments. You're going to be in the city all day, so you're not going to need to commute a lot. So you can get a really cheap Airbnb somewhere, and then just save your money for your housing deposit.
Mm-hmm. And how much can both of you recommend? How much did you, on average, without, you don't have to share as much as specific as you'd like to be, but how much would you say rent was typically for you two? We'll go Nicole. Do you mind? Were you comfortable sharing an idea of how much rent was?
Yeah, so the apartments I was looking at ranged anywhere from $350 a month to $550 a month. I think that's kind of the average range
Okay.
that
And
I
then
saw
did
for
you have to pay first and last month's rent and a deposit or anything like that?
I'm trying to think. It was so long ago. With my case was kind of rare since a girl who came through CIEE had put down the deposit in July since her friend stayed here last year. But due to circumstances, we actually had to put down a deposit, all of the other roommates in January.
Okay.
And then the deposit is usually 1 to 2 months rent.
Okay.
I would say I've seen both.
Okay. And Elena, how was your renting experience as far as cost, paying deposits and things like that?
About the same. I was looking at rooms around 350 to 500. Same this year and as well as when I was studying here. And my first apartment, I had to put down a deposit and it was a little less than 1 month's rent.
Okay.
And then the apartment I'm living in now, no deposit, just first month, last month. And the last month is kind of like a deposit. So basically, when you want to move out, you don't have to pay rent. And if there's a problem, they might ask for more, but I don't think that there will be.
Okay. And would you both say that when you were saying kind of the ranges were, anywhere from 350 to 500, was it cheaper if there were more roommates? Was it more expensive? I mean, how many rooms available were, or how many rooms were in these apartments that you were finding? Elena, we'll start with you and then we'll jump to Nicole.
So in my experience, the price is determined not so much by number of roommates, but by two other factors. First, location. Like what I'm paying is like considered pretty expensive for a local Spaniard our age. This is a lot because most locals would rather live a little bit less centrally and pay a lot less. Mm-hmm. So location is a key factor. If you don't want to live in the city center, if you want a quieter neighborhood, congratulations, you're going to save a lot of money. And secondly, the other factor I've noticed that really determines price is windows and natural lighting. So Spain is beautiful, except there's maybe 1 month of winter rain, but otherwise in Madrid, it's almost always sunny and temperate and nice out. And people here really like fresh air and they really like leaving their windows and doors, like a balcony door, open. Mm-hmm. And so you can find a really, really, really cheap room in the center that doesn't have any windows, but the more windows and the more natural light it has, the more expensive it will be. Same with if it's interior or exterior. So a lot of buildings will have like an interior patio. So your room may have a window, but instead of looking out to the street, it'll look into that interior patio. And the room, like in the same apartment, those two rooms, the one with the exterior window might be like 100 euros more than the one with the interior window.
Okay, that makes sense. That does. I guess I never thought about that as well, though, that the amount of windows and all of that. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, also a lot of a lot of buildings here are old and they don't have central air conditioning or heating. So during the summer and spring, yeah, most people leave their windows open. They also don't have a lot of bugs here. So you need it gets really, really hot if you live in a room without a window, but it's very cheap.
Okay, good. Thank you. So let's jump to the next topic. Also for the listeners, feel free to use that questions box anytime and to ask questions, as the participants are speaking so that I can, get those answered for you during the topic, and you're more than welcome to be interactive with that. So the next topic is teaching at your host school. Nicole, I'm going to start off with you. You had mentioned you are also in a secondary school as well, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Can you run us through kind of like an average day or what the schedule's like, anything like that?
Yeah, so I'm at a bilingual school, as you mentioned. So I not only teach English, but I teach 1 biology class, 2 history and geography classes, and 3 gym classes throughout the week. So my schedule is full of variety. Mondays and Wednesdays, I start at 8:30. I would say that's a typical starting point. That's first period. And I go all the way till 2:30 with some breaks in the middle of the day. Whereas my Tuesday, Thursday classes, I start at 8:30 and I'm done by 12:30.
Wow.
Which is super nice. So kind of each person at my school, I've glanced at their schedules, and it kind of just depends on what your coordinator gives you.
And would you say, with the classes, when you're teaching biology and history and geography, I mean, what if you don't know anything about biology? How are they kind of telling you what to plan or what to prepare? How does that work for you?
Yes, definitely. I will say I know nothing about biology. That is totally not my background. And the first day, I was very upfront with the teacher. But yeah, he tells me in advance presentations to prepare. So there was like International AIDS Day. So I did a presentation on AIDS this week and they really at my school like to teach about like where I'm from, specifically in Chicago. So I'm giving like the landscape and the organisms that are found in Chicago. Just a quick presentation on that. And same with history, they tell me in advance what to prepare and different activities that past English assistants have given as well.
And how much prep time are you usually doing for these classes?
I would say in total, anywhere from 1 to 3 hours a week outside of class.
Okay.
So it kind of just depends. My teachers are really good about telling me kind of weeks in advance what's coming up.
And so then in addition to your, the other subjects that you're teaching, you're also teaching English classes, correct?
Correct, yes. Okay. And that includes like Cambridge exams and like prepping time for that as well.
Okay, awesome. Elena, how about you? What is kind of a typical day like for you?
It really depends on the day. My schedule is different every day, just like Nicole's. One thing I want to make clear for everyone listening is that you have 16 teaching hours, but you may be at the school for more hours than that. So Thursdays and Fridays, I work 4 days a week. Thursdays and Fridays, my work is very consolidated. I'm there for 4 hours. And then I leave, whereas Tuesday and Wednesday, I have more gaps in my schedule, which is fine because I use it for lesson prep time. But just so that you're aware, it's not like 3 hours every morning and that's that. It really depends. I mean, some schools are like that, but it depends. Regardless, I still get out 2:30 or 3:30 every day, which is really early, especially in Spain. That's still like the morning basically here.
Especially for secondary, English, right? I think doesn't secondary usually kind of go a little bit later?
Yeah, some days we have classes until 3:30. It just depends on the day.
Okay.
So I teach at a bilingual school as well. So I teach English, history, and PE. So I have 8 hours of English, 4 hours of history, and 4 hours of PE. And then I also, just for fun, am helping the school launch an online magazine because my school has an art program and there are a lot of kids that, are really talented and I want them to have a place to show their work. What I do really depends on the teacher. I have some teachers that I just, they let me know when they need me and I prepare a presentation for the class. Sometimes we do games and activities. In PE, I don't do very much at all. In history and English, I'm a lot more active. My prep time depends on the week because obviously if the kids are having an exam or something, they don't need me, or sometimes just isn't enough time to do any extra things. So my prep time per week can range from 1 hour to 6, really just depending per week, just depending on what the schedule will be like for that particular week. But I love it. My kids, I have some challenging classes, but some they're all rewarding, and it's a job that I'm tired when I wake up early to get there for first period, but I like going to work, and it's fun to be around adolescents for me personally.
Aw. And so then when you're at school all day like that, what are you usually doing? Does your school have a cafeteria? Do you go out to lunch? Do you have a break for lunch? Or is when you're done by 2, that essentially is like lunchtime?
Yeah, so there isn't a cafeteria. I think that might be more of a primary school thing. I'm not sure, but we don't have one. We have a break, a 30-minute break from 11:10 to 11:40, and then I also have my own break. So I bring my meals, or I can go get something every now and then if I have a long break. If a teacher doesn't need me, I'll go get a snack. But in general, the Spanish lifestyle, you eat something small in the morning, have your mid-morning snack around 11, and then you eat lunch at 2 or 3. So we get out at 2:30. So like all of my students and all the teachers I work with, they snack when they wake up, they snack at 11 o'clock, and then as soon as they get out of school, they all go home and have a big lunch, which is what I've gotten into the habit of doing as well.
And how many other language assistants are at your school?
At mine, we started out as 5, all girls, all from the United States. Unfortunately, one of them had to return because of medical issues, and one of them, well, we're quite happy for her. She got a really amazing other professional opportunity, and she didn't want to leave this school, but the principal knew that this was something that she had worked for a long time, so she'll be leaving in 2 weeks. Some of the students are planning her a goodbye party next week. It's going to be the cutest thing ever.
That's really sweet. So Nicole, how about for you? How many other teachers, languages and culture assistants do you have at your school?
Yeah, so there's 4 of us total. There's 3 of us who are girls from the US, and we have an older male who's from Ireland, actually. So the kids absolutely love it because they hear kind of the different accents, from the Irish accent to the American. So it's really nice.
Do they say which one they like better? Or is more
No, I think, yeah, the American accent is easy for them to understand.
Yeah. Aw. I'm trying to think with teaching. Elena, I think you had mentioned too, as well as the 16 hours, to keep that in mind. So when they're counting your 16 hours, I mean, so one class period isn't considered an hour, correct? I mean, they're counting out that hour, so that could actually be a class and a half could equal 1 hour. Is that accurate? Nicole and then Elena?
I'm trying to think. I average around 4 classes a day.
Okay.
With the 50 minutes, so I think it just depends on your school. I'm not sure about you, Elena, how your school kind of set that up.
Mine is in total exactly 16 hours.
Okay.
So I have a little bit. I actually only have 16 teaching hours, and then I have, I have 16 classes that are 50 minutes, and then I have 1 meeting period, a mandatory weekly meeting with the bilingual coordinator and the other auxiliaries. So if you add in the meeting to the 16 classes, that ends up being 16 hours.
Okay. Just for time purposes, we're going to jump to the next topic. So I want to try to get through these. So the next one's going to be banking, and I was going to have Wendy join us as well. I still don't look like she's been able to join us. Elena, can you just give us kind of a quick snippet of what did you, kind of what you do? Was it easy to set up? Did school pay you through direct deposit, things like that?
Sure. I'll make this quick because banks are horrible in every country. And banks in Spain are as wonderful as banks are anywhere else, so which is bad. But anyways, it's not difficult to set up an account here. Just bring your passport, and it's pretty easy. The banks here function pretty much the same way they do in the United States. I do direct deposit in my school, so it goes straight into my bank account. The bank that I would recommend is really good for traveling and good for young people. Like it's very easy to use online, and that was what all my Spanish friends recommended. And you can use it anywhere in the EU, and you don't get charges. And it's called Evo Banco, EVO Banco. The only issue with it is that you can't set it up an account there until you have your Visa card, which maybe takes like a month to get. So I got my first paycheck in a physical check, and it was just, using a safe at home with cash. And I waited to set that up. But most people just go to one of the big banks like Sabadell or Santander and set up an account very easily without a problem.
Okay. And then, Nicole, do you have anything to add? How was banking setting up that for you? Did you communicate in Spanish when you went? Did anybody help you with that? How did that work?
So I set up my account through Sabadell. So they came to my orientation and told us like where to go to headquarters and what to bring to set everything up. So they spoke both English and Spanish there at like their specific headquarters, which is in a little bit north of the city center. But before that I recommend setting up an American account with Charles Schwab with all your savings there. If you can transfer, I found that's really easy, and you don't get any fees when you withdraw from ATMs. They reimburse you if you do. So I found that's been a really great travel thing for safe versus transferring from your American to your Spanish bank account, because you do lose money with the conversion there.
Okay. Thank you. So we have got Evo Banco. What was it, Alina?
Yeah, EVO Banco, but they don't speak English, so only go there if you are comfortable in Spanish.
Okay, and then Banco Sabadell has both English and Spanish, so we've got that. And then let's jump to the next topic. So vacation in 6 days. Nicole, when are the bigger holidays? Usually it's like Christmas and Semana Santa. Is that a safe assumption?
Yes, I would say, I was like trying to think about it, and I say we roughly have like at least one long weekend per month. But I would say, yeah, the big ones are Christmas break, which is roughly like 2.5 weeks, and Semana Santa, which is about 1 week, which is their spring break.
Okay. And then any national holidays that Spain has or that your school has, any holidays, then you have those days off as well?
Yes, like for instance, this weekend, I have Fridays off, so I'll have Friday off, and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I believe are bank holidays. So that's another long weekend in April.
Nice. And then have you ever had to take any sick days? If you did, what was the protocol that your school told you?
Yeah, so I actually got really sick at the beginning of the year, like the first week of November. So I found a doctor that CIEE recommended, and you just have to have like a doctor's note. It's called a justificante. So when you go, you just have to ask your doctor for it, and they write it for you. And then my school or my coordinator just said, bring that in when I'm feeling better.
Okay. Elena, would you say similar situations?
Yeah, definitely. The only thing I want to point out is with the vacation days, first of all, don't book any trips until your school has given you your calendar when you arrive, because schools have national holidays, comunidad holidays, like the county basically, and city holidays. So if you're placed in Madrid, the comunidad, but maybe in a town in Madrid, your calendar would be a little bit different from mine. Also, as Nicole said, the winter break is about 2.5 weeks, and ours didn't start this year until the 23rd. And a lot of my coworkers had already booked flights assuming that it would end earlier, and then they had to miss days at work, it's not the end of the world, but it's 30 days, it's 30 euros out of your paycheck for each day you miss. So don't book your tickets home yet, or just try to book them for the 23rd or Christmas Eve, because otherwise you might have to leave early.
That makes sense. And I suppose you just want to make sure too that you're having that good relationship with the school, that you're not just like, oh, I'm not going to be there, I already bought my ticket. You want to, maintain that relationship with them and be considerate of your students, of your teachers, your staff, of everyone.
Yeah, of course. And with the sick days, most schools, like, well, I've heard other schools don't necessarily ask for the justificante. My school always does. So if you're sick, even if you don't think you need to go to the doctor, even if you just have a stomach bug or you got food poisoning and you know it will pass, you still need to go to the doctor to get the justificante, to get the certificate that you were sick. Because the school, I mean, it's a government school, so they need to prove, even if my boss doesn't care, but she has to submit paperwork at the end of the month. And if I don't have a doctor's note, she can't tell the government to pay me for that day.
Oh,
but
okay.
it's never been a problem. Just go to the doctor.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And then the final topic before we kind of open up for more Q&A quick is going to be private tutoring. Nicole, what can you tell us about private tutoring? Was it easy, kind of age ranges, or payment, how much you're getting paid, things like that?
Yeah, so I went through private tutoring with my school. I teach about 3 to 5 classes per week. And I've heard of people who don't do any private classes. I've heard of people who do way more than I do. I would say it's really easy to find. I tutor some of my kids outside of school. So I just asked my bilingual coordinator, which I suggest asking through them because I have heard of some schools who can't teach their kids outside of school. That might be a rare circumstance, but I asked my bilingual coordinator and my teachers, and they put me in contact with the parents beforehand. So I usually earn around 15 to 25 euro, depending. I teach a class of twins per hour, so I get 25 per hour for them. I just kind of had an open conversation with the parents beforehand. They asked how much I charge and kind of do a wiggle room from there.
Okay. Okay. And then, Elena, are you doing any sort of private tutoring that you could share too?
Yeah, a little bit. So I do some freelance website work. So when I arrived, I wasn't looking for lessons at all, but people want to learn English and I kept getting offers. So I thought, okay, might as well start doing it. So I just have one client right now. We meet twice a week for an hour. It's 20 euros an hour. She's a development economist because I prefer private lessons for adults rather than with children. But I know people that teach 10 classes a week from, as you know, with kids as little as 3 years old to people as old as in their late 70s. So it really depends. And I go to my client's house because I know she's got 3 kids and works full time and I'll make the commute. Mm-hmm. I don't mind. But a lot of people I know will just kind of have one evening where they'll sit at a cafe and every hour a different person will come and they'll do all their lessons there.
That's smart. That's very smart. As far as for you, Elena, because you were in the Teaching Spain Basics program, I mean, I'm assuming your Spanish level was a little bit higher. Do you think that you need to have a pretty decent grasp of the Spanish language to find these jobs as an English language tutor?
I would say no. It depends on what you want to teach. For kids, not at all, because they're still learning basic English. So I got a lot of offers, and a lot of my friends spend their time working with kids, and they're not even really teaching. They're just kind of babysitting the kids in English and playing games with them in English. So they don't need it at all. I do because I do need Spanish because my client has a really, really high level, and every now and then there's just, an academic word that we need to translate. But I guess, I wouldn't really need to speak Spanish. I guess it's people who are mid-range, they need you to speak Spanish, but little kids and people with an advanced level are totally fair game for anyone who doesn't speak Spanish.
Okay. Thank you. How about you, Nicole? Would you agree kind of on that?
Yeah, definitely. So I teach both like kids outside of school, and they have a pretty high level of English. And then I also found these two businessmen who I tutored at the first half of the year. And they specifically were looking for someone who had a knowledge of Spanish because, as Elena said, it was helpful in terms of translating like business words or just a word that they didn't know in terms of vocabulary. But they were specifically looking for that. So we kind of had a trial class, which I think is common for older people because they definitely want to get the biggest like bang for their buck, I guess you could say, in terms of what they're looking for.
With when you were tutoring children, and you were communicating with the families, I assume, to set up these tutoring sessions, did you have to speak in Spanish or English, or was that pretty easy to work out?
I'm trying to think. I think there was both. I think there was one mom only knows Spanish, so I communicated with her, and sometimes she would have her son communicate since his English level was so good as well. So both.
Aw, that's awesome. Okay, so real quick, I'm going to open it up here to some Q&A, just kind of general questions. I know, Elena, you do have to leave here shortly. Do I still have you for about 5 minutes? Is that okay?
Yeah, of course. Ironically, I have to go to my private lesson, but I can probably stay for like 10 more minutes.
Okay, I'll keep an eye on the time. So for the listeners that are still listening, I want you to go ahead and input any additional questions that maybe weren't answered, and I'll try to get through some of those as well, and ask Elena and Nicole. So some of the ones that I had seen kind of jump back a little bit to, like the sick days and doctor's visits. If you had gone to the doctor, how much would you say it cost? We can do, who's speaking? Is this
go ahead, Nicole.
Nicole?
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
So with our insurance, my doctor's fee was €90 each time I went. And you have to, I filed a claim with my primary insurance from the States. So going through that, my US insurance kind of told me what I needed in order to get that reimbursed, which was kind of steep. So I've heard of other people who have like 40 or 50 euro, but this was it's one of the ones CIEE recommended, and they are English speaking.
Okay. And was it was it like just like a checkup? I'm sick, I don't feel well. It wasn't like a specialty visit or anything like that where you paid the €90?
I've only been to this one doctor, so like I said, I was pretty sick at the beginning of the year, so it's pretty serious. But then another time, I also had food poisoning, so as Elena said, it was kind of a thing I knew that would pass, but with my bilingual coordinator, I needed that justificante.
Okay.
And then for you, Elena, how much was it roughly if you've had to visit the doctor?
It's been a little more. So I've paid about 100 per regular visit, ER, because sometimes, not for a real emergency, but if I just couldn't wait because I needed the justificante, I would go to the ER. The healthcare that CIEE provides you with is really excellent. I do everything through H&M Hospital Group, and I've had to pay for some lab work and some specialist appointments. It's been more expensive, like €200, but I have been reimbursed through iNext within 3 weeks every single time. So I've been told that if you go through your primary insurance, it can take months to get the money back. I guess fortunately for me, my primary insurance doesn't cover me here. So I rely on iNext, but it's been really easy. The only thing that I would note is the money, when they reimburse you, gets sent to an American address.
Okay.
So they can't get it to you in Spain. So what I do is, if I need to go to the doctor, I let my mom know that I'm going to make the charge on her card, and how much it will be. And then 3 weeks later, she gets the check in the mail, deposits it to her account, and everything is all good.
That's clever. I never thought about that, of having someone from home, in a sense, pay for it, but knowing that they'll just get the reimbursement anyways.
Exactly. It's like she's loaning me the money to pay for it, so that I don't have to go through this system. But she gets every single penny back.
Mm-hmm. And then with the justificantes, you get those from the doctor, right? I mean, a pharmacist, no one's going to give you that. You have to go to the doctor to get those for school.
As far as I know, you have to go to the doctor. Is that true for you too, Nicole?
Yeah, same. You have to go to the doctor.
Okay. I have another question about housing. So Nicole, you had mentioned that you live with all American roommates, correct?
Yes.
Do you wish you would have lived with Spanish roommates, or are you happy with the American, does it feel too local to you of having like home America, or do you wish you would have had a little bit more immersive experience with your housing?
I would say both. I absolutely love my roommates. We're all really good friends. They're the people I travel with. That being said, originally I had wanted to room with Spaniards in order to improve my Spanish. And I found that because I'm with all Americans, I do have to make that effort to go to intercambios and to take Spanish lessons or, watch Netflix in Spanish and stuff like that to really get like a local perspective, but kind of having that piece of home has been nice. I will say, just with housing and how competitive it is, I just was open to whatever when I first came. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Elena, and then I'll jump back to you, Nicole, as well. What did you do for a cell phone or what have you done for a cell phone while you've been in Spain?
Oh, that's a great question. So I got a Spanish SIM card. And I used the same company this year as I did when I was sitting here. Love it. Couldn't recommend it more highly. It's a small company that's part of Vodafone, so it's part of a big one. It's also like made for young people. It's called Tuenti, so Tuenti. And it's all like you do everything on your phone after you go to the Telefonica. It's run through Telefonica, not Vodafone, excuse me. But it's a massive company. The plans here are pretty cheap. I pay maybe like 12 euros a month for like 3 gigabytes and unlimited calls. The only thing is my plan, it's cheap, but I can't use it when I go back to the States. So like when I went back for Christmas break, I wasn't able to use this line, but it's been easy and it's not expensive. Like it's not something that you really have to think about a lot before you get here.
Do you have to sign a contract, or is it a month to month essentially?
Mine is month to month. That's part of the reason that I chose it.
And so you just brought your US phone with you, your iPhone, your Samsung, something, and then got a Spanish SIM card and did it that way?
Yes, so I took my phone and my passport. You always need your passport to register for a phone number here. And they took out the SIM card, put in the new one, helped me set it up, and I was on my way.
Awesome. And then Nicole, did you have any similar experiences? Did you do a SIM card, phone plan? What kind of options did you do?
Yeah, so I would say first off, my biggest advice. So I have two phones. I have my American number, so I only use that on Wi-Fi, and then I also have a Spanish phone. So I just brought like an old iPhone 5. So I would definitely say, since in the States I'm paying month to month, I'm paying off my iPhone. In order to get that Spanish SIM card in there, as Elena did, you need to have your phone paid off. So I would say talk to your phone company. At least with AT&T, that was the circumstance.
Mm-hmm. So that unlock it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of been a little difficult having two phones at first, just because my iPhone 5 is a bit old, but it does the trick.
Mm-hmm. And then do you do with the iPhone 5, you do the SIM card and then just pay month to month as well?
Yeah, exactly. And you can I'm with Labara, so I can renew everything online. I can like recharge it and download data plans as well. It's less common, I will say. I know most people use like Orange or Vodafone, but Labara, I believe, was the one with CIEE at orientation.
Okay. I have questions about, one was with teaching materials. Did you ladies bring any teaching materials with you? Did you have to buy any while you were there? Anything like that? Elena, I'll let you start, and then I'll hand it over to Nicole.
Yeah, I'll answer this really quickly, and then I have to head out. No, I didn't need any teaching materials. I brought one or two games that I thought might be fun, but I haven't needed to provide anything. You know, they're public schools, so they're used to working with a limited budget and being creative with their resources. So I haven't really needed to buy anything. Even my notebook, they like to take notes on the students. They had the copy center at the school make one for each auxiliary so that we wouldn't have to buy anything.
That's
So
awesome.
I really wouldn't worry about that. And unfortunately, I have to head out. But
Mm-hmm.
again, congratulations
Yes,
to everybody. And I hope you have a wonderful time in Spain.
yes, thank
And
you,
don't
Elena.
worry at all because CIEE makes everything really, really easy. So if everything has sounded really overwhelming to you and you don't want to worry about getting a phone plan or setting up a bank account, don't worry because they'll have someone from the phone company and the bank company at orientation, and you can really do it all there if you want to.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Elena. We super duper like appreciate your time and thank you for joining us. You enjoy the rest of your evening and yeah, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye. Nicole, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still
Okay.
here.
Nicole, is that okay? Can we ask you just a couple more questions here, and then we'll let you go as well?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Thank you. So what was my question? Oh, materials. Did you bring any materials or did you have to have any materials, purchase any for school?
No, so I didn't bring anything over here. And my school also kind of gave me everything that I needed in terms of if prepping for like the Cambridge exams, those English exams that the kids have to take at the end of the year. Everything was given to me. I will say what's really helpful sometimes is sharing lesson plans with your friends and other people that you meet with CIEE. Because sometimes I have teachers who will just come and are open to doing anything. And I like the kids to be engaged. So kind of having those backup little lesson plans and games is really helpful.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And then there was another question on here. Oh, with your apartment, did you have to purchase any sort of housewares, linens, anything like that? I mean, for the most part, it came furnished, right?
Yeah, so I was very lucky in terms of like linens and beddings, everything was here. I did. We bought a toaster, a blender, and a coffee machine. I think those were really the only things. And since Americans lived here last year, there was blankets, yoga mats, weights. I think we were very lucky in finding this.
That's awesome. As I just blanked on my question for you. Are you, so well, as the fact that you're in Spain, I mean, obviously you're teaching your classes in English. Are you learning or being able to practice your Spanish much? Do you take Spanish classes? I mean, how are you working on that?
Yeah, so some of my teachers at my school do not speak English. So I love chatting with them and the people. And I do have a cafeteria at my school. So talking to the chefs there is always really great. I've been to a couple intercambios. There's also an app called Tandem that I've used in meeting other Spaniards here who want to practice English.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more of like a one-on-one exchange. And watching Netflix in Spanish has really been helpful in terms of like listening skills, and a lot of shows I found have like the Madrileño accent. So it's been really helpful versus like the Andalusian accent is a little bit different.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow, that's awesome. I'm trying to, let me see, I think there's just a couple more questions. When you were working with, kind of trying to, communicating with the landlord with your situation, was it in Spanish or was it in English? How was that?
I would say mostly in Spanish. I would email landlords in Spanish. Here, my landlord is actually Irish. So it's been super easy and he's been super great. But I always just default in Spanish, and then if I find out they speak English, kind of work from there.
A little bit of Spanish.
Yeah, and exactly. Which I think they're used to since Madrid is such an international city. I really haven't found communication barriers at all.
Good. Have you done any, with that kind of, have you done any extracurriculars that, or is it easy to be involved in other things besides, private tutoring and working at your school? I mean, any volunteering or other, activities or anything like that you do?
Yeah, I will say that's one of the reasons I decided to apply through CIE is because you're guaranteed like Madrid, which is a big city. So there are a ton of different communities you can be involved in. I've used the app Meetup a couple of times. So there's like running groups. I go to the gym. There's gym classes, volunteering opportunities, especially on the Facebook pages. There's through CIEs and both just the general auxiliary page. People are always posting and kind of finding what you love in your kind of community over here.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. And then finally, I'm just going to end it with just one more. I mean, do you have any? I mean, you've shared. Oops, sorry, so much with us. I mean, do you have any other parting advice? I mean, anything as far as pre-departure? You know, just the first few weeks upon arrival, anything like that that you'd be willing to share?
Yeah, I would say, as the Spanish say, poco a poco, like little by little. That is a huge thing. Although it can be stressful, I have found that if you have a good attitude and kind of go with the flow, everything will eventually work out. When I first came over here, I really didn't have any expectations because I was so excited to be, living over here and teaching, and the kids are so excited for you to be at their school as well and learn all about you. So that gives off a really good energy. So I would say if this webinar overwhelmed you in any way, again, in terms of phones or housing, don't worry, it'll all work out. And CIE has a great resource, or is a great resource. I've met with, been to the office here a couple of times in terms of figuring stuff out. So they're always open and are really helpful.
Well, thank you so much, Nicole. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the webinar. You have been so helpful. You had mentioned, when you were in the same situation, how you were, on the other side, as an attendee and everything. So I do appreciate you coming in and sharing with us and helping everybody. I know it's super helpful to myself, but then also to everyone attending that's planning on going. So thank you.
Of course, and congratulations, guys, you guys. If you guys decide to come over here, it is absolutely the best decision you will ever make. I think the people I live with and the people I've met who have went through CIE say the same thing.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. You take care, and yeah, I'm gonna close up the webinar. Thanks, Nicole. Take care.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.